Hello, everybody, and it's 7:42 on a Monday, and my voice sounds amazing. I had an absolutely fun weekend with my guys from the crib. Shout out to them for pulling up. But anyways, more importantly, let's talk hoops. I'm setting this show up this way today because I talk basketball with three of these guys like every day. But also, I wanted to wait for all of the kind of finals talk to die down so that like we just didn't go high and to the right with our crazy takes. I wanted to like have a more reasonable conversation about the finals and the different takeaways from the finals. So, what's up, Boink?
You're
What's up, EB?
Heyo,
Parlay P, what's happening?
howdy do.
Hey, P, how was the Kanye thing on Thursday?
I feel like this is a trick question because everybody knows how big of a Kanye fan I am. It was fantastic. Honestly, for him to have not done shit but play music, I thought it was like a legendary type of event, in my opinion. It was great. And the album actually, I mean, even though it's loud as hell in there, like the album really did sound good. I hate that he didn't deliver like he said he was going to, but I'm kind of used to it now as a fan. So it's, but it was great. Honestly, it really was great. It's good to see that he's getting his shit like back together. Like,
I mean, his life has changed a little bit. He probably has more time to focus on music and not be a reality TV show star as well. So maybe we'll get that old Kanye. But anyways, let's talk about the finals. The Bucks win in 6, as Brandon Jennings predicted, and Giannis closes out CP3 and the Suns with a 50-piece. And I think for Giannis, it makes sense, right? At first, I picked against the Bucks, and it was more so me not wanting the Bucks to win versus me predicting what I thought should happen. Because if we look historically, the Bucks were primed to win the finals. They were really the only team in the East who had the big guns that have also took enough playoff losses, who've taken those lumps, and then they show up against a team that didn't even make the playoffs last year, and all of a sudden we're shocked that they won. I don't think we should have. So let's go to EB first. How did it feel to watch Giannis hoist up that trophy?
The first few games, I was actually mad because I love Chris Paul, so I wanted him to get it. This is probably the closest he's ever going to get. But as we were getting to like game 5, game 6, like period, the Bucks were the better team. Even starting, the Bucks were the better team. The Suns had chances where if they would have played perfectly and everything would have gone right, they would have won. So like game 4, they could have won that game if things would have broke right. Chris Paul didn't turn that ball over late. Game 5, they could have won if things would have broke their way. Say Devin Booker, instead of driving all the way, just pulls up, hits a shot. Like they could be up and then win the series that way. So I'm saying they were not as good a team as Milwaukee, but they had chances to win if things would have broken their way. But Giannis was the best player in the series, and pretty much 9 times out of 10, that's going to get you a ring. So I think the right team won. I just didn't want them to win, but I was fine with it.
Boink.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that last game, closeout game, 50-piece, one of the best games I've seen in the finals. Like, he deserves to win, and the better team did win. And it's unfortunate that Chris Paul probably isn't going to get a ring. But I mean, the Bucks won that series. I don't think like Phoenix lost it. The Bucks just straight up won. Credit to Bud for actually making some adjustments throughout the series. They took away Phoenix's corner 3, so they won.
Pete?
yeah, and I mean, I'll piggyback off of what they both said and how you kind of brought the topic in. We've seen this story before, have we not? Every team takes those lumps in the playoffs the previous years. And last year, I think that them getting eliminated in the bubble, by Miami in 5 in the second round was such a shock to everybody. And of course, Miami going back to the finals, it set up this story for them to come into, the Giannis thing. Well, is he going to come back? does Bud survive if they don't win this year? There were so many storylines headed into the season, and they knew that they needed to get somebody. And they got Drew Holiday, which if there was anything that he did do, that steal, and then that alley-oop pass, it made that money worth it that they ended up paying him. And so, you got to tip your hat to them just for persevering, because obviously I think, like many of us thought, if they had lost, that Nets series was really, to me, that was really the NBA Finals. The winner of that series was going to win, because Kyrie was probably going to eventually come back if the Nets won, and Harden was going to get healthier. So like that was the NBA Finals in my opinion. But they definitely did deserve it, and I did think that they were the better team. Just like I felt like the Suns kind of got off lucky even getting there to begin with, but it was set up for them to kind of win this thing. Just the comeback of it, playing Miami in the first round and then sweeping them. It was this was a story written kind of finals for them, and the NBA loved it too because they're in Milwaukee.
Absolutely, and I think that's the one thing to look at, kind of the way the story is set up. Right, they get redemption versus Miami. Then they beat the super team, although hobbled, but the super team who everybody kind of given the finals to. And then they beat the hot young team that kind of had everybody's attention going into the playoffs, But you talk about the acquisition of Drew Holiday. And I think that's an important acquisition, because I don't know if you all remember, they were kind of torn in between, do we go after Drew or do we go after CP3? And they ended up getting Drew Holiday, probably the better long-term move for the team. But just the idea of how close Chris Paul was to a championship with the Suns, how much closer he probably would have been had he been on the Bucks. Like, could you still see that Bucks team winning if CP3 would have went there instead of Phoenix?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
Like, even though the Bucks won the championship, did they really make the best move for their team?
For the long term, absolutely.
yeah, I mean, obviously J. Rue is younger than CP3, so I mean, CP3 is like what, 36 now, turning 37 maybe. Like, he's got maybe a year or two left in him. I mean, J. Rue is 30, 31, somewhere around there. So yeah, I mean, it was a better deal, and he's a defensive stopper. So I mean, he stopped Chris Paul. So.
So Giannis, is he the best player in the league now? Come on, Eric.
I would say no still. And like, not to shit on Giannis. Giannis is, in my mind, like a top 3 player in the league, probably even top 2. But I think it's still Kevin Durant. Like, hobbled team. And of course they had the super team. And the problem with the super team, similar to the Heat that first year, you have your 3 superstars and then you really lack depth. So they didn't have a chance to really build depth around those guys. They lost those 2 guys, and Kevin Durant still was almost like a pinky toe away from sending them into the Eastern Conference Finals. So everyone was saying like Giannis figured something out. And I'm like, if you really think about it, Giannis played the Hawks, who like had a great run, but their front court, like, he's going to eat Clint Capella and John Collins. Like, he's going to, period. And the front court of the Suns was really just Ayton, because Sarge, and I'm not saying Sarge is like, if they have Sarge, they win the title, but like their depth was diminished as well. So Giannis really had like the best situation ever aligned for him, because the 2 teams he played after the Nets had terrible front courts. So I think it's still Kevin Durant, not taking anything away from Giannis. This isn't an asterisk championship. They won it outright, but I don't think he's the best player in the league. If we're still picking, I'm picking my team around Kevin Durant.
And the funny thing, you talk about the pinky toe, and shit, the Nets, their front line wasn't great either. But the pinky toe, if the pinky toe would have been a couple inches back, Bud is fired.
If the pinky toe's back, Bud is fired, and we're like, bro, this Giannis dude really can't get it. And then the narrative switched that easily to Giannis is the best player in the league. Oh, is Giannis top 10 ever now? And it's like, it is crazy just how stuff can change like that. But if they get knocked out of the Eastern Conference semis, we're looking at them completely differently. And that's why I think like KD is still the best to me, because their defense wasn't good and Giannis couldn't do shit with it. and they don't have a good front court. And then he just played worse front courts as the time went on. So that's why he's not the best player in the league, but he's damn close.
Somebody has to believe that Giannis is the best player in the league.
Well, I don't think that he's the best player either. I'm kind of with Boyd on that. I mean, to me, this is what I think Giannis is. I think that he's now the face of the league because of what he just did. I really do. And I know that there's that argument for LeBron still, of course. You know, you got Space Jam. He's still making headlines, and he's, you know, been out of the playoffs for a month and a half. But, you know, he's a likable guy, first of all. I think that the media loves Giannis. He proves it on the court. And him beating KD, to me, was kind of that mantle of a pass. That was his moment. Like, you know what I mean? That was the moment. I know we talk about, you know, what if he didn't? But he did. And so because he did do it, you know, he's going to get the praise for that. It's you know, it's the freshest thing right now is that he's the winner, and he's going to be until next June. But at the same time, I would take KD over him. Because I think KD's the better player. But I think that he is that new face of the league at this point. Like, he kind of almost has to be. He's younger. He's already so accomplished. And I think that that's just the thing. That's why even some people are like, you know, assuming that he doesn't have a serious injury and he continues on this trajectory, he could win 2 more titles the rest of his career. And I think that people would most definitely put him in that top 10. I kind of look at it as, I'm a big Kobe Bryant fan. And so even when Kobe was winning titles in 2009, 2010, and going in 08, you know, they had the LeBron and Kobe puppet commercials. And there were people that used to tell me that LeBron was better than Kobe. And I'm just looking at them like they're fucking stupid. Not because, you know, LeBron hadn't won a ring or anything. It was just more about, how is he better than Kobe Bryant today in reality? What makes him better outside of you saying, well, LeBron can, you know, damn near average a triple-double almost, and his teams win 60-something games a year. It's a similar thing, I think, with a guy like KD and Giannis as of today. It's in that situation, but except the difference is between that situation and this situation is Giannis has that title now. And that nobody can really take that away from him. And he did it in a small market. You know, everybody else has had to either join a team outside of Kobe, of course. And I'm talking within the last, since 2000, basically. Everybody else that's been considered that face has had to join a team. And I guess I tell you what, and then Steph Curry's 1 year before KD is an outlier too. But outside of that, you can't really name anyone else that didn't have to team up with somebody to win a title.
You know, I kind of like where you were going with that Kobe versus LeBron and this KD versus Giannis thing, because I think there are a lot of strong similarities there, because at that point in his career, we said that LeBron was the best player in the league. But if you watched it, you go, he's just not as skilled as Kobe. And he's not as accomplished as Kobe.
He doesn't want it as bad as Kobe.
I'm not going to get into that.
That shit was so obvious, bro. I'm in high school and I'm looking at that shit, and I'm just like, people were really coming up to me, like telling me LeBron is so much better than Kobe. And it's like, I still don't think LeBron is better than Kobe.
Oh yeah, you're being skipped.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. LeBron has stood the test of time, and he's a top 3 player all time. Like, I would never argue that. And it's not the bias of me being a Kobe fan. It's just more of a, if you really watch these guys play, if Kobe had everything that LeBron had, anyone that thinks that Kobe wouldn't have made it work is silly. He would have made that shit work. He could have won with that. But could LeBron have won with what Kobe had? Like, really think, I mean, and I'm not talking about the shit. I'm more so talking about Pau Gasol titles.
To the finals.
I'm talking about those Pau Gasol titles. I don't think so. I don't think that he had the
That's like the AD team now.
I don't think that he had that shit in him, bro, to get past, to be, because Kobe had to play Boston twice in 3 years. I don't think that LeBron had that shit in him to beat them. I don't. Even with that Lakers team, if you put LeBron in place of Kobe, I don't think that he had that shit in him to get past them. But that's just me.
I do.
Bro,
I watch.
Pierce, you are the only person I know that could take a question of is Giannis the best player in the league and turn it into
And incorporate Kobe
versus
right?
LeBron. Not even just incorporate Kobe, but Kobe versus LeBron.
I'm just because they're similar. Like there is a similarity there. Man. There's a similarity there because at the time, everybody like we can all say LeBron is the greatest player in the NBA today, right? Just like Kobe to me was the great. He was because he was the most accomplished, like the greatest that was currently in the league. He was the greatest player. But there's always somebody that is better. But I'm just saying that the difference between the two is that Giannis is a champion. Like Giannis did it. Okay, like imagine, and I know I'm all over the place kind of, but just imagine Kobe not making it to the finals that year against Boston, but the Cavs making it over Boston. And they played who did the Lakers beat in the West Finals that year? That wasn't
they beat Denver.
No, I think Denver was the next year.
No, they beat Denver in 09, and then they beat the Suns in 10.
But who was 08? The year the Lakers lost.
Oh, the Spurs, because the Spurs beat the Hornets.
All right, so let's say the Spurs played the Cavs again in the finals that year.
Drugged them.
But LeBron won the title against the Spurs. And even though that ain't even a fair comparison because the Spurs were so great. My point is, let's say LeBron did win one title in Cleveland.
Okay.
Let's say he did get it done. I don't want to count.
He did.
Let's say he did get it done. I just think that the narrative of LeBron would be totally different. Like you could accept the fact of saying, okay, maybe LeBron is better than Kobe. Like even then. So it's just similar to me today to where
Kobe. But let's get back to this year because we can talk this forever. So you look at what Giannis says after the game. He talks about how he didn't have to go team up. And, it's a great moment for the NBA because, a pretty much homegrown team wins the championship. And they won a super team. What do you guys think of that? Did Giannis have a point in what he was saying about how he didn't have to go away? He did it the right way. Is it the right way to do it homegrown, or is the right way to win by any means necessary? You go first, EB.
The second way. The right way is to win by any means necessary. And if you can do it the homegrown way, because if we're being realistic, that's the way a lot of these teams are going to have to do, especially a small market like Milwaukee. They're going to have to do it for the most part the homegrown way. Players aren't trying to go sign there. So him saying like we did it the homegrown way, we did it the right way. Yes, it's the way people like more because it feels like there's an element of like you didn't cheat your way to it. You didn't take the easy way out as a competitor. But like championships don't grow on trees. So we had a super team this year. They didn't win it. When LeBron and them formed up their super teams, they didn't win on the front end or the back end. Like we've seen super teams form and we've seen super teams not win. So you forming a super team doesn't mean you're guaranteed to win. Look at what the Clippers have had to go through. So I think you put yourselves in the best position to win because at the end of the day, everybody in the league is an NBA player. And then the chips fall where they may. But him saying like they did win the ring, but it's also just like, yeah, but these super teams and that like injuries are part of the game. They had some injuries. And like I said, this doesn't come with an asterisk. Staying healthy is part of it. But I don't think they beat a healthy Brooklyn. However, Brooklyn wasn't healthy, so they won. And like, period, that's it. But I don't think there's a right way and a wrong way. I think you do whatever you can to put your team in the best position possible. And that's what the Bucks did, and the chips fell for them in the best way.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Giannis, who said that he has a super team? Who said that?
Stack. Yeah.
Stack. Yeah, I mean, that's completely false. Like,
they have what, 3 All-Stars on the team?
4. 4 former. If you count Brook Lopez, he was an All-Star.
True, yeah.
Yeah, but
even though he's been removed from the All-Star. My bad.
Like, I think no, you're good. But like,
I was just saying, even though it's been like 6 or 7 years since he's made an All-Star team, but
yeah, and like Chris Middleton is an All-Star. Like, by him getting to the All-Star game every year, like
he's a Rudy Gobert
every year, but yeah, like he might end up with like 3 or 4 selections in his career, maybe 5. Like I wouldn't call.
And I
the
even got
Bucks
to
a
double
super
check
team.
if he's going to make it in the West. Like he's an all-star in the East, but he's not a dual conference all-star. Like he's a great player. Not taking anything from him, but it's not a super team. He hasn't even made third team All NBA. Like it's not a super team if you have one person who's on an All NBA team.
Exactly.
And they don't need to misconstrue a super team. Like I think what he really meant to say was it was a well put together team to where 1 through 5 they had, they had kind of everything, like in a sense of there really wasn't a weakness in that starting 5. Like there wasn't. You had Middleton that you could get the go-to bucket from. He proved that multiple times in this playoff run. Like I was at game 3 against the Hawks when he fucking had like 20 points in the fourth quarter. That shit reminded me of Kobe. There we go, boy. I added him back in. But it did. It really did. It was kind of crazy, like how he was just pulling from all 3 levels. It was unbelievable. But that team was built so well. And even though DiVincenzo went down, you start talking about you've got a guy in him who was the most valuable player in the NCAA tournament for a national championship team, still on a rookie contract. You got Drew, this two-way guy that's been really good, never great, but been really good, and obviously got max money, either before the season or like really right at the start, they paid him all that money.
Before.
You got Brook Lopez, who has evolved his game a little bit. He always could kind of shoot, but like now he's like an actual threat at 3. And then you got Giannis, who is this 2-time MVP, this best player in the league type guy. And then you add Bud, who was great with the Hawks. Bud is like the equivalent of, even though he wasn't first, he's like the equivalent of Mike Smith to me. Like for what he did with the Hawks, I'm saying. Like he really tapped in as far as they could get with that.
Bud is Dwayne Casey with a better team. That's it.
Well, but think about it too. Bud also was, this is like Pop's protege. Basically, he was with him for 17 years before he got that head coaching job.
Let's stay there. Pop's protege. I heard a sportscaster last week say maybe this is the Spurs Midwest where you have your humble superstar and Giannis like a Tim Duncan, and then you have, Bud coming from the Pop system. Is Milwaukee the next sports dynasty?
No.
Spurs Midwest?
Hell no. They got to get through Brooklyn next year.
They'll be lucky to get another one before Giannis's contract ends.
The stars literally lined up perfectly for them this year.
The Spurs had to get through the Lakers back in the day. All I'm saying is Brooklyn could be their Lakers. They're a well put together team with one superstar, and the other parts really work well.
We just talked about how Kevin
Durant
got
that better conference on the other side that's got teams that are just as good, if not better, than Brooklyn. Even though we look at Brooklyn with all that star power, hell, there's a rumor going around that they're going to trade Kyrie Irving. And, to me, they're not getting another superstar for him. Like, they're trying to get, like, multiple pieces because they think that with Harden and KD, it could work, which it really could. But there's still that other conference. Denver's going to – and I know how you feel about Jamal Murray, but
don't get
Denver's going to be better. They're going to be better with Jamal Murray. And if
what is better?
Jokic won MVP this year and they got swept. Why can't Jokic come out and be just like Giannis last year? Because I think Jokic is really the most skilled center I've ever seen play.
He's not that dominant, though.
Yeah, he's not dominant like, he's not like Shaq dominant. But, like, here's the thing. I mean, how dominant was Giannis before this year in terms of –
Shit, all he needed to be dominant was this year to get a ring this year.
But I'm saying, though, I'm just saying nobody's calling out – just like Eric just said, like, nobody's talking about Giannis as a top player if they don't win this year. So who would be talking about him being dominant like that?
Well, I think that's the problem. I think that's the problem, though, because when you listen to the people talk, they get stuff wrong, right? Like we're tossing, we're really like moving Giannis in our player rankings a lot by him being himself. Okay, he showed up in the finals, and then because Chris Paul lost, all of a sudden he wasn't the MVP of the season. Which I mean, he didn't win it, but he was MVP. It's like no. We were wrong about what we said about Chris Paul. We were wrong about Giannis. Well, some people were saying Giannis should have won the MVP this year. If you look at his numbers in comparison to his MVP seasons and his team, like it was not crazy to think that he could have been a 3-time MVP. And because he won the championship and the finals MVP, it's like, oh, he could have been he could have been. I just think we can't get too caught up on results without properly contextualizing what's creating those results.
But he also, like, people had fatigue. And similar with LeBron when he won his two, that people were like, all right, I mean, you could be the best player in the league. We've seen it's been in the playoffs. You choke up, similar to what Giannis was doing. So I think next year is going to be real interesting because there is a world where, like, they do a 2015 Warriors because a lot of people were like, Kevin Love went down, Kyrie went down, and they won this sort of fluky championship. Then 2016 comes around, and they were the best fucking team we've ever seen. They won 73 games, and that confidence of winning that championship really takes you to a whole new level. So I don't know if coming back next year, the Bucks will have this whole new arrogance about them, like, nah, we belong here. And whether you think they don't or not, they have the championship, and the arrogance and confidence might be there, and they may be through the roof. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they come out next year. I personally think a healthy Nets, but like we don't know what the Nets and the landscape of the NBA is going to look like next year. So I think just really anything could happen. But if I were betting, I would bet the field.
Well, Pierce is a betting man. What are you sending in right now?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the smartest bet. They probably have that set at like minus 2,000 just because nobody really thinks that they're going to repeat. I mean, the Nets, they came out as the favorite anyways at plus 300. And so,
yeah, the Nets and Lakers are the top two. I think the Bucks are got like the third best odds.
Yeah, and they're even still a distant third from those two because the Nets are plus 300, Lakers are plus 500, Bucks plus 900. So they're even, you know what I mean? They're 3 times the favorite of the Nets. And so, like you said, we don't really know what the Nets are, how they're going to look in the landscape of the NBA. But with another year of Steve Nash, you know, this was his first year coaching too. And I think that people don't, as great of a leader he was on the floor, he still had never coached. He wasn't an assistant coach. I know that he was like a consultant with the Warriors, but he was never coaching. It wasn't like he was an assistant coach with Steve Kerr. This was his first time coaching, and
it shows.
They're a pinky toe away from probably winning it all. So with another year under his belt, and let's just assume that Kyrie is back, another year of those guys gelling together, I don't know why, from a talent standpoint, they wouldn't be the favorite. Like that just makes it's kind of an obvious pick. And the thought is that depending on what happens with Ben Simmons, of course, in Philly and what they end up doing there, you know, unless they were to get Dame Lillard, why wouldn't they be able to get back to, you know, where they were in the East? And then it comes down to them beating the Bucks, which I think in this second round with the healthy, assuming that they're healthy, why wouldn't they beat them? I think that if Kyrie was healthy in that series, that they would have taken them out in 6, maybe even 5, depending on if Giannis misses some more free throws. You know what I mean? Giannis didn't become – what did Mark Jackson say, Lee? Giannis didn't become the greatest improved free throw shooter in NBA history until like game 4 of the NBA Finals. So –
don't ask me any Mark Jackson quotes because I tend to watch the games on mute when he's calling them because we both heard him say that, right? Didn't he say the greatest, most improved free throw shooter in NBA history? Didn't he say that? He said some type of nonsense like that.
Okay. Well, to paraphrase, that's what he said.
So let's look at 2 different things, right? For one, let's define a super team, because I was having a conversation earlier today, and it's almost a conversation. Let me shut up. But it was an odd conversation nonetheless. And I was told that the 2020 Lakers were a super team. And I go, LeBron and AD, and their third is Kyle Kuzma. And then part
the
of
third was Rajon Rondo. Come on, man, get it right.
But then part of like the defense was they had Rondo, they had Dwight Howard. I go, That's not prime Rondo. That's not prime Dwight Howard. Like this is not 2012.
Both of those guys were backups.
Exactly. So
That was their lot in the league. They weren't starting anywhere.
I'd say a super team is 3 guys that every year they can contend for an All-NBA spot.
Yeah, I'd agree. 3 superstars, like, in the prime of their careers. Because even the Clippers had PG coming off an All-NBA season. They had Kawhi, who's All-NBA every year. But it's really them two. They had a ton of depth, but it's really just them two.
Yeah,
so if you have 2 superstars in depth, you're just a really good team. 3 superstars makes you a super team.
To me, a super team, like they said, is 3 guys. But I wouldn't even say 3 guys that are, which I guess you would always be in contention for All NBA if this is the case. But 3 guys that were the best player on their team the year before. That's a super team. If they all came together, like that's why the Nets were a super team.
I mean, but you could say like Christian Wood from the Rockets. Like, come on.
Yeah, you got to be all in. You have to have 3 All NBA guys, and one of those guys needs to be a first team. Because even if it were like the Celtics, say they added Jimmy Butler.
Think about it.
I wouldn't call them a super team.
If they were all NBA at one point in their career and they were still in their prime, sure. But I'm just saying, like, I look at the previous super teams, right? So you look at Boston, I guess being that. Well, even though really the Lakers were the first, but we won't even bring that up. The Celtics being that first super team, you had one guy that was the best player on his team, Paul Pierce. You had Kevin Garnett, who was the best.
No. Super teams go back way before then.
But I'm saying, Worthy, Magic, Jabbar, right? But I'm saying, and Mikhail, Parrish, Bird. But what I'm saying is that in the modern era, to me, a super team is formed in one off season or within mid-season trade, kind of like how the Nets got Harden. I don't look at adding a guy and then some role players to that 2020 Lakers team as being that's not a super team. You know what I mean? When 3 guys come together at once, that shit's a super team. The Heat, best player on the Toronto Raptors was Chris Bosh. The best player on the Heat was Dwayne Wade. The best player in the league was LeBron James, and they went to Miami. And so that's a super team. Like, you know what I mean? That's a super team.
But you also have to contextualize it, period. That's just the way super teams are built now. You can't have like a 1980s Lakers where you get Kareem in a trade, you magically get to draft Magic, and then you somehow get to also draft James Worthy when you've already won 2 championships in a 5-year span. Like, it's just not going to happen like that anymore. So you have to get a LeBron to come in free agency and a Chris Bosh come in free agency. So it doesn't matter how the super team is formed. I think the criteria is 3 All-NBA players, and you're not going to just home grow 3 All-NBA guys. The Warriors came the closest with Draymond,
Clay.
James Harden wasn't All-NBA. He was 6th man of the year, but he wasn't All-NBA.
I was just saying about a team that came close.
They did come close. And then the Warriors had Draymond, Clay, and Steph, but KD really put them over the top.
But see,
Draymond and Clay, if they're out of if they're out of Golden State, they're not All-NBA players. Like, they were only All-NBA players because of that system. And don't get me wrong, they were good enough. They earned it. But, like,
Clay
as the number 1 guy.
I think Clay might have been. It depends. I think Clay's a 50-50.
But
Clay's 50-50. Okay, I'll give you 50-50 on Clay. I like Clay.
Because he's in, like, Detroit. But if he's in another team that really gets that ball moving, he's an All-NBA guy. So it just depends on where he's at.
Yeah. Trae Young was nothing this year. But anyways.
But he was an all-star star last year.
He was. But anyway, so if you're a GM, right, you pick your market. Would you rather be a traditional build through the draft, make acquisitions here or there, or would you like to be a super team guy? What about you, Eric? You're from LA, Tinseltown, super team capital USA. How would you
a super team guy? I just feel like that is, if you are in a big market, you have an easier chance to lure free agents. And then they're proven products. If you're going the small market route or just the homegrown route, the draft is a luck of the draw. Like, you have all these players grading out, but at the end of the day, like, Look at what Wiseman is doing. Look at like the best player in last year's draft. What was Halliburton drafted? Like
13th, I think.
Like 12th, 13th.
Yeah. And I'm saying the year like Donovan Mitchell's draft, he was drafted super late.
12th,
So I'm saying
or something like that.
These days, I would rather just be in a big market and try and lure free agents. It's definitely difficult, but I know what I'm getting because these players are proven.
Well, and that's exactly what they want anyways. I mean, think about it. I was watching clips of the Herd on YouTube, and like Colin Coward's like doing this list of like stay, go, question mark or whatever, like whatever he does. And like Zion came up, and it was all because of that one report of his family, I guess, not being happy with management. And then of course, magically, like a couple days later, Stan Van Gundy and the Pelicans decide to mutually part ways. And so it's like one of those things of where, okay, it's going to be hard to keep anybody anywhere. AD knew that he was never winning a title with the Pelicans when he got drafted there. Like he knew that. Like he knew damn well they were never winning a title in New Orleans. Like he knew that. And, you know, I just don't think that – why are you laughing about that, man?
Because
it's not funny.
I just think you have an anti-New Orleans bias.
No, I don't. It's a good place to be for 2 days. But point being, Zion, you know, a guy like him, just for instance, does anyone really think that he's going to be there past his rookie contract?
Yeah, because they're going to bring in Kyle Lowry.
How old is Kyle Lowry?
36, I think.
Okay. So they're going to win that title like next year or 2 years from now?
Yeah, Brandon Ingram takes another step up. The new coach gets them playing right, and they're like the Suns of this past year.
Who's the new coach?
Again? Yeah, I was going to say, who they hire again?
I forgot. I think they hired a black coach.
Oh, okay. Well, I think that that proves the point. Even on that, we don't even know. So,
it's not.
Yeah, no, he's a goner. Like he's a fucking goner. He is a fucking goner. Okay, he's gone.
All right, so a few more things before we transition to off-season stuff.
Willie Green, by the way, he's the coach of the Pelicans.
Oh,
okay. That guy, he played like for the Warriors, right?
Yeah, he was an assistant for them too.
Yeah, he paid.
And he played for them at one point. Yeah. And actually, I think he played for the Hawks. Funny enough, but yeah, hell of a hire though. Yeah, Zion's definitely going to want to stay for that. Yeah.
So Eric, I want to give you the floor right now because you were deeply bothered, and Pierce, you can hop in on this one too, by the Devin Booker Kobe comparisons. And I just really want to know, as a Kobe fan, as a LA guy, how disrespectful was it to Kobe to compare Devin Booker to Kobe just because he shoots mid-range, he plays shooting guard, and they met a couple times and he wrote some quotes on his shoes from Kobe?
I don't know if disrespectful is the word I would use. Like the first time people said it, it was like, oh man, Devin Booker wants to be legendary. And he's using this like fuel from his meeting with Kobe. And it was cool. But then when they're saying it every game and like anytime Devin Booker hits a shot, anytime Devin Booker goes to the free throw line, well, you know, Kobe wrote be legendary on his shoes and he just wants to make his idol proud. And it's like, all right, bro, let Devin Booker be Devin Booker because he is a great young player, period. Like when Kobe was his age, he was, of course, like getting buckets, but I don't even think it just wasn't as refined. Like Kobe was way more athletic. So like Kobe could rely on that. He could break you down, get to the basket. But Devin Booker is really a bucket from 3-point line in. He's still got to work on like his 3-point game. He actually shot like maybe 34% or so in the finals. Like it wasn't great, but mid-range, like he is a bucket. So I get that like the scoring. But then they started saying the comparisons too much, like he was Kobe reincarnated. Saying like I see flashes of Kobe, cool, got it, yeah, we're good. But how they were every game, oh, you know, Kobe Bryant talked to him once, and that's who he wants to be like, and we see it on the court today. It was like, no, man, he's just another great young player. He's got a good future ahead of him, but like, let the Kobe comparisons alone. He even said it himself, like, stop comparing me, bro. He even himself was like, no, Not even hey, I'm honored. It was like, stop it.
I mean, Stephen A. said he's the next Kobe Bryant. Stephen A. said it. Then I mean, who are we to question Stephen A. Smith?
Clickbait.
Wait, Pierce, you had
Stephen
what
A.
was your
Smith
quote?
said that Shohei Ohtani couldn't be the face of MLB. So we got to start canceling people like this. Okay, like we have to start canceling people like this.
Yeah. Why does Stephen A. have so much clout?
Bro, he just for real became like the face of the 4-letter company and is really the face of like sports media right now. I don't know when he got so powerful.
And he's
It's
like
from his run in like the early 2010s, like, you know, around the Heat era. He like was actually like a pretty good analyst in my opinion. But now it's just like he's just searching
he was
for,
also next to Skip Boink.
yeah, so like yes, in comparison, like their show, it's like, oh, he's like the more reasonable out of the two, and like Skippy's saying skip shit. So like Stephen A actually made sense, but now Stephen A is the new Skip, so he doesn't make sense.
And he was he was plugged into like the hottest basketball team we've ever seen. Well, until the Warriors came, and every day it was like a whole LeBron segment. And Stephen A. was last night when I was in bed cuddling LeBron, he told me that he's gonna go off because he really doesn't like the Dallas Mavericks. So yeah, he did. He was plugged in, but I don't get it now how he's ascended to the apex mountain he's at now.
It's like everything else. Look at the most popular people now. They're pretty popular on social media for whatever reason, and because he's became such a meme for reactions, that's definitely, I think that's elevated him. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Because now even the casual person that doesn't really watch ESPN or never really did, they know who Stephen A. is just off of a meme.
But also, most sports fans are casuals, so that's what it is. Casual, and I'm not saying I'm out here and I'm like someone needs to sign me. But I'm saying most sports fans are casuals, and Stephen A. gives them what they want to hear, and they can like argue with him. And so he's everything a casual wants.
Hey, let's have a conversation about that, because I don't consider anybody on here a casual sports fan. You know, I'm not gonna say we're experts, but we're above casual. How hard is it to find decent sports media that you don't have to like sift through, because so much of it is geared towards the casual fan? Like, I understand when you're at like the 4-letter network, your job is to like drive ratings, your job is to get clicks. But at some point, where are the sports people who have really good content that is shit that they actually believe, besides
The
Ron
Ringer.
Russillo?
They're all at the Ringer. I mean, if you think about it, it's just like politics. Like, people are casual. The majority of people are casuals. Like, you don't have time to just be reading all these articles. You'll look at a box score, you'll look at the highlights on ESPN, and like those obviously don't tell the whole story. You maybe are listening to like First Take on your way to work. Just like during election season, you might have CNN or Fox or whatever your news media outlet is. You have that on while you like making your morning coffee, but then you go to work and you start doing your actual job. So like in everything, most people are casuals, and it's just hard to find someone who actually is like really pays more attention than your usual and knows a little bit more. And then those people also, you know, like to be like, they like to talk down to casuals. So
Yeah, somebody with like good sports takes. Like, I can say that, like, for me, I've been a sports fan my entire life, and even though I might have a little bit of biasness towards the Falcons, and
A little bit.
okay, a lot, Boink. Are you happy? I just admitted it on camera. But
Let's just get the story straight.
well, hey, and then even Atlanta sports as a whole, even though, you know, I've always been a Lakers fan, whatever. I think that, you know, growing up for me, that person was like Bill Simmons. Like, I used to love, and this was before, because he wasn't really on ESPN like that. Like,
He was
in that,
writing.
exactly. I used to read like everything he had. Then when he had Grantland.com on ESPN, then he like got away from it. I've always loved Bill Simmons, like, because to me, he's somebody that like he really does kind of get it. I mean, just like anyone else, he has bad takes too. But that was like somebody that I've always like really listened to and truly did enjoy like reading his articles and stuff. Like there aren't very many out there.
That makes a lot of sense now that like, because I listen to Bill Simmons every week, and the way that you can circle back to the Falcons and the way that he can circle back to a Boston team, you got a lot of Simmons in you, Paul. It's like I really see like the Simmons influence on your sports takes.
Really?
Yeah, no, I'm a huge Simmons fan.
Are you calling him an influence?
Huh?
Are you calling him an influence?
I mean, yeah, I consume Bill Simmons. He influences some of the way that I consume sports. Like I when you give a guy 6 to 9 hours of your ears every week, like what they say has the influence on how you consume things. And when you're somebody who you actually respect, and for the most part knows what they're talking about, unless they're going with their hot takes, and Jesus Christ, nobody can cook up a overreactionary hot take like Bill Simmons. But I mean, yeah, I'm a huge Simmons fan. I mean, me and these two guys, we talk about Simmons all the time.
He's moved down my ladder a little bit because Waz is just so good, and Russillo was my favorite for a little bit. Like, yeah, everyone he gets, they all for the most part just talk good basketball.
Yeah, except for Kevin O'Connor. I hate the way he watches basketball.
I mean, I think it's hard to find people that watch the game, you know, not like a casual fan and can then like talk in depth, because like you said, I mean, like the majority of the world is just like, yeah, I'm watching basketball. I'm not like watching the game, which I didn't watch the game like at a critical level for a while, and I'm still honestly learning how to do that, because like you just kind of find yourself watching the game as a fan. And then you see certain trends and stuff. So I think, I mean, it definitely takes a skill, and it's not for everybody. But yeah, definitely like Russillo, like Simmons, even though he's getting a little wonky over these past 2 years. They say everybody from the Ringer for real.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, the Ringer. Those guys are like the real, like low key, like insiders. Like they really are. Like when you really read those articles.
Well, if you talk to Julian Turner, that everything that's not ESPN is garbage.
ESPN still does have really good people. Like Jackie Mack, period, does a lot of good things. Windhorse, he's really good. Like they do still have good people over there. It's their prime time basketball people. Like
Mark
inside
Jackson.
the NBA, I don't really watch. The pregame show is just trash.
Terrible.
And then the halftime, like everything they do is just terrible. Bad. And the show they're putting on is bad. In the TNT show is so much better. It just is crazy how their best basketball people are not given the spotlight.
You don't like Jalen Rose talking about basketball?
No. Here's my problem with Jalen Rose and Woj and whoever else they put on there, Jay Will.
Well, no more. They would be switching that shit up. I was about to say no more Maria Taylor, obviously, but they would be switching those two out. They really would,
because ESPN doesn't care about the personality; they care about the logo. As long as it's ESPN, they'll be fine.
Well, they've got.
And they will be.
Yeah. So they got.
I mean, I know. I'm just saying.
I mean, I don't listen to ESPN.
Jay Will is.
What'd you say,
no,
boy?
I don't listen to ESPN if I want to learn something. Like I listen to ESPN for background noise, essentially, or if there's a game on. Like I'll probably skip the pregame, wait 15 minutes and just watching it. Like I will not listen to ESPN for a take, because
I mean, yeah, why don't I get more Zach Lowe?
Yeah, no, I listen to Zach Lowe's podcast all the time.
Yeah.
Well, and think about him and Simmons are like,
yeah, Grantland.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but anyways, let's transition. Is there anything else we want to talk about the finals or bash ESPN for? Because I'm all for bashing ESPN.
Nothing to bash them about. I mean, I guess we have to get ready because we got the draft coming up on Thursday, so we'll be. I mean, I'm gonna tune in. I'm
listening to the Ringer feed. I'm not listening to to the draft coverage that ESPN is going to provide, where everybody's going to be compared to a Hall of Famer. And I'm like,
I wish that they, and I guess you got NBA TV, but like, I wish that it was similar to kind of how, because I like Rich Eisen too. Like I do like Rich Eisen. He's got a pretty good, and his show is pretty good. Dan Patrick too. Like there are certain people that have got these niche kind of like they're specific. Like to me, I think of Dan Patrick and Rich Eisen more as football people than anything, right? Even though I know they do more than just that, but like that's really kind of their niche, right? Like they specifically stick to that.
Good.
Yeah, Dan Patrick's really good.
Yeah, and right. And Dan Patrick obviously being legendary
too.
Yeah, being legendary at the 4-letter network. Like guys like
the
that.
Kobe of ESPN since he's being legendary.
Well, Kobe's not the only legend, but I appreciate you for bringing him into this so that I can talk about it. Oh boy. No, but seriously, there are certain guys. I wish that to where the NBA had it to where the draft did have multiple like feeds on TV, because you can watch the NFL draft on like 4 different networks at once. I mean, or not 4 different networks, maybe 4 different channels, because I know that
like
2
4
of them
different
are
broadcasts.
Yeah, like you can get the ESPN. Like ESPN2, you can go get the NFL Network. You can go to Fox and actually get some good analysis. And
ABC, which ABC's ESPN, but I'm saying they'll have the draft on ABC too. Like, you know what I mean? Just to where at least we're not getting just one set of eyes on it at ESPN for the most part. Like,
right? Okay, let's get some off-season stuff. Right. So I think this is going to be a very interesting off-season. I am not read in enough to the draft to really speak on it. Like I've listened to some stuff, but I'll wait till they turn into pros to have opinions on most of them.
We also didn't get a big enough sample size because the college basketball season was truncated. It's like, this draft, like these scouts and analysts know, but we don't have much.
My
they
casual
don't really
ass
know
don't
because
know.
they never do.
True. So let's talk about some offseason moves that we think are going to happen. I say we start with the Lakers. There is a lot going around with the Lakers and what they're going to do. There's rumors of CP3. Don't see how that works under the cap. They have interest in Kyle Lowry. There's a Russell Westbrook trade rumor out there. Colin Cowherd has been floating this Bradley Beal thing for years. It's like since LeBron got to LA. And he just says that LeBron likes Brad Beal. He just keeps putting that out there. And because I know that he has a relationship with Mav and Rich, that I think that he is saying some things for a reason. But again, I don't know. What do the Lakers do? Like, what direction do they go? Apparently, Kuzma and Schroeder were fighting throughout the season. And I'm like, what are y'all fighting over? Who can be the biggest disappointment to the team? Like, I don't understand what direction the Lakers are going to go to improve their team. But before y'all comment on that, I also want to put it out there for all the people who are like going crazy saying the Lakers have to make a move this offseason. They were the second team in the West before LeBron and AD got hurt. So I just think it needs to be said that they were not a 7 seed with health. But where do the Lakers go next? Boink? I'm going to go with you first because you're not a Lakers fan.
They need shooting. As simple as that. Like, I mean, I saw the deal
for Buddy Hield.
Yeah, I was gonna say the deal for Buddy Hield. I think that would be good. Like, I'm not super high on Kuz. Like, I mean, I'm not a Lakers fan, but like, even just watching the game, like he doesn't really do much for me, or Schroeder for that matter. Probably a little jaded from my Hawks days, but they really need to like clone like KCP or like Buddy Hield and just like, put 3 of them around LeBron James and AD and have them just ready to shoot. And like, that's it.
So what do we think about? Nah, I can't even do that. I was gonna say, what do we think about a big 3 of Swiper the Fox, Halliburton, and Kyle Kuzma?
I mean, good luck to the other 2 not named Kyle Kuzma. Because he's going to be trying to get his 25 and maybe like 8-4. With
Didn't
the floor
Halliburton
coming
like tear his ACL?
Did he?
If you're not on that.
Yeah,
Either
he
way,
took it.
but
Even with the torn ACL, he's better than Kyle Kuzma. Like playing on a hobbled leg with crutches, he's better than Kyle Kuzma.
like wherever Kuz goes next is, I feel bad for them.
Yeah, because they got to pay for that shit. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, can you imagine having to cut a check for Kyle Kuzma, bro? Like, and be like, yeah, here, man, here's millions of dollars to like.
That's what I'm saying.
You know, essentially, not do anything. And so, I think seriously, I think you're absolutely right. The sky is not falling on the Lakers, like you said. Health is going to be a big thing, but I think that they have to look in the mirror and examine themselves and say, hey, this team was good enough to get it done I guess now it would still be a year ago, but let's just, because this upcoming season's coming 2 years ago, this team was good enough to get it done. LeBron's not getting any younger, and he's obviously getting hurt now, which is something he's got to avoid, his entire career, his injuries. And so you look at it from this perspective. Your next move, I know that everything is about 1 year. Getting Buddy Hield and then potentially making another small move to get somebody that's going to be good for just making this championship run this upcoming year. But the thought is LeBron's shelf life. How many more titles can you really get out of him? And it's no secret what his goal is. His goal is to either play with Bronny or play against Bronny, but he wants to be in the league when his son is in the league. And so getting Buddy Hield to me is a short fix, and it gives you this, because Buddy Hield's no superstar, but he is a guy that's going to shoot 40% from three and give you 20 points a night. That, like, you know what I mean? That's great. Like, so they'll be in contention and probably, be a favorite like they are even now without him, from Vegas' standpoint. I think that will be good for next year. But if you're going to make a move, don't you want to make a move to where it's like once LeBron's really because he is winding down. I mean, nobody wants to say it. He's not Tom Brady in a sense of Tom is able to do it. Like, he's just able to do it. That shit is unbelievable. Like, anyone can say what they want about Tom. But, like, LeBron's not going to be able to do that in basketball. And so, for me, if I'm the Lakers, if you want to just win one more, you need to go all in and get nothing but a lot of really good pieces, because you don't have the money to get a third superstar. Like, you know what I mean? Unless you see a young player that you can get, that you have that feel for, that can be a superstar. And
if Trez opts in, you package Trez, Kuz, and KCP. You could kind of make something shake, but it would have to be a Brad Bill type distressed asset that says, send me to LA only, and that's the only place I want to go, and I only have 1 year left of my contract.
But period, that's what you have to do anyways, because LeBron just holds franchises for ransom. Like, period. Everywhere he's gone, he holds you hostage, and you have just that window while he's there. There is no, like, Spurs with David Robinson, now we've got Duncan, and once one superstar leaves, we still have a future. Like, there is none of that when LeBron is on your team. Once LeBron leaves, the breakup is just as ugly as how fun and lavish it was when he comes. So, yes, AD will probably be sticking around, but it's going to be a whole new rebuild. And, like, rebuilding around AD is not bad, especially if he can stay healthy. But they're going to need to get a piece for next year, because I think the window is next year.
So what about the Russell Westbrook thing? I don't like Russ in the playoffs. But do you think Russ and his intensity could bring something to the Lakers in the regular season that allows LeBron to, chill a little bit more, take some games off, and then if an injury does happen, that you're still super competitive throughout the regular season? Because I think that's the one thing that they lost when LeBron was gone. I mean, AD and DS17 wasn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's the only way. Yeah, go ahead, Blake.
I was gonna say, you got Russ going like 5 for 25, like in the playoffs. And it's like, do you want that? Like, do you want him to carry you through the regular season and get you to the playoffs and kind of play like shit, or what? Like, what do you want?
But that's the thing is, like, since KD left, he's had to do that. Like, he had to do it in OKC. Yes, they had PG, but he was feeling himself a little bit there. And then with the Wizards, like, it was just him and Bradley Beal. So I think the only way it helps is his intensity. Like, you don't want to have to be guarding LeBron out on the perimeter and then be having to run with Russell Westbrook. I'd be like, bro, what the fuck is going on? Like, LeBron's the biggest motherfucker in the league. And I also got to now run with the just most explosive dude. And like, this ain't fun for me anymore. So I think that's the way is
his athleticism, like going forward.
I trust the athleticism and the intensity.
I trust the intensity. I don't trust the athleticism.
Oh, he's still super quick and he can still jump out the gym. He's going to make turnovers and stuff. So I think LeBron and AD can calm him down. But I'm not saying this as a like Pelinka, get on the phone, like make the deal for Russ. I'm saying if we get Russ, I'm very skeptical, but I see a very narrow path where it could work out. This is me being an optimist. I'm not saying like, oh yeah, Russ coming to Lakers, like pencil in the championship, like write it in stone. I'm saying if he comes, like there is an avenue where it could be okay. But I'm watching like this the entire time.
That's definitely a best case scenario. Like I think with a guy like Russ, you have to ask yourself, A, let's stop acting like he doesn't get hurt too. And then B, you know, the type of basketball that he does play isn't necessarily good with a guy that already gets injured and then a guy that is an aging, you know, back end of his prime twilight player like LeBron. I would want to go the youngest route possible. I would try and set up the team now. If you're trying to do this for a 2 to 3 year plan, which is what's basically left on LeBron's contract, I would, and they've got to do their due diligence. They really do on a guy like that. And it's no secret here. Clearly, I'm a biased person, but I'm also a realist too. And I think that I said this in our message group, and I know it might sound crazy to everybody, but I think that a guy like Colin Sexton would be, depending on what you think of him, he's played in Cleveland. Look, Kyrie, say what you want to say, was doing damn near the same thing in Cleveland once LeBron left too. A guy like Colin, he is a gym rat.
No, he was doing things in Cleveland, and yes, he was getting numbers, and then so was Kyrie and LeBron came. But there are dudes on bad teams that get, because like Devin Booker was not a good stats bad team guy. He was a good player on a bad team, and it just wasn't translating to wins because the team was bad. And now he got players. Colin Sexton is not a good player, and people know. Like, go ahead and no. How efficient is it?
Is he up for a contract?
Kenyon Martin Jr. was averaging like 27 points for like a week. And of course, like it's not a whole season. He did come in late, but what I'm saying is Colin Sexton is not it. It is, oh hell no. Keep his ass in Cleveland.
Is he up for a contract?
Yeah, well, he's in the last year of his deal. And so, but this is what I'll say. And like I said, it's not me knowing him personally. It really isn't even that. I think that what it is for me, he does have that dog in him. Like he really does. And every year, statistically, he's improved greatly. Every year. He was like 17 points a game his rookie year. Then it was like 20 last year. This year was like 24.5 points. Bad team, of course. Let's just keep it 100 too. Bad organization. Cavs are bad organization too.
Kevin Love.
A guy like him can thrive around LeBron and AD, in my opinion. Because
what do you have to give up to get Colin?
But this is my point. You don't have to give up much to get him. His trade value might be mid-level at best. You know what I mean? Like nobody is trading a star for him. You know what I'm saying? Like without them giving up a lot more to do it. He wants to get paid. I mean, that's the reality. Like this is what he's been playing his entire life for. Of course he wants the same deal that De'Aaron Fox got. Like, of course he wants a max.
If I were the Lakers, that's where I would have pause because, like, we just saw what Dennis Schroeder did this past year, like kind of playing for a contract.
But here's the thing. But here's the thing too. You don't have to pay him. He still is under contract for one more year. You do have his bird rights. Let it play out. I'm sure that he'll still do good.
But like the contract's still looming. He's still going to be playing for it. He's still going to be playing for his numbers and for his contract, which like he should be.
If he ever,
Bring LeVar's boy back to LA.
Let's say that a trade happened and they gave up because Kuzma would be the center behind the deal. Like that would be the centerpiece from the Lakers.
Yikes.
They don't have picks. I mean, so like you're giving up him and probably KCP or maybe they're even saying, no, we want fucking Kuzma and Taylor Horton Tucker. Let's say that that's the base package of a deal like that. You make that trade, Colin comes, he's going to play under it, and he knows that coming into it. Obviously, he's playing under a contract. He's not ball hogging with AD and fucking LeBron there. But I guarantee you this, he's still giving you 20 points, and come playoff time, you're in a position to where you're still going to be competitive to win the title. Like, you know what I mean? You're going to be in that position. He'll still get his 20 or whatever. Let's say they make it to the West Finals, they lose to the Nuggets.
That's not happening.
So Colin Sexton right now is averaging 24 points a game with Isaac Okoro, Darius Garland, and Jared Allen. You put him on a team with LeBron and AD, he's only going down 4 points a game. And not ball. Like, in what world is he doing that?
He gets better every year. He can't shoot every shot. I mean, and I guess we would have to look at and think about it. That's why he only averaged 4.5 assists a game. I mean, we have to almost look at the whole body of work. And he's not even the point guard technically. Darius Garland's the point guard, so it's not like he's a point guard.
Colin Sexton to the Knicks.
He shot 40%. He shot 40% from three. He has nobody to pass the ball to. And, you know, who's their coach? JB Bickerstaff? Okay. He's
a cool young player, but I'm saying, like, you saw a young Kyrie, you see a Trey before they got Bogdanovich and, like, they put the pieces together. You still saw flashes. And, like, with Colin, I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's a good young player. I just don't see it. I don't see it.
He dropped like 48 on the Nets with the big three.
Jeremy Grant had an offensive renaissance this year too. So I'm saying, like, in the league, this is the best time to be scoring points for anybody. And he is on a team where somebody got to score. Like, he is on a terrible team with players that cannot shoot and cannot get a bucket. Somebody's got to score. That's the same reason people were like, oh, that Christian Wood guy. Like, no, somebody's got to do something. Somebody's got to grab the rebound. Somebody's got to put the ball in the basket because you can only have 5 guys out there.
So what about Lonzo Ball back to the Lakers? Jesus Christ. No, Lonzo Ball back to the Lakers. Lonzo can now shoot it. He has his grown man body, and he's already played with LeBron. I think he would be a great point guard for what the Lakers need.
I mean, I think that's fine. I think what LeBron really wants and what the Lakers need are basically like soldiers, like somebody that won't really get in the way. And, you know, they take their marching orders and, like, you know, yes, sir, Mr. LeBron, I can do that. And then they do it, and they don't care about their own stats. You know, they're not trying to get paid. Like, that's what LeBron likes and wants, and that's what the Lakers should try to do if they want to keep him happy.
I think he needs another bucket getter. Like, when he does his best, he had D Wade, who was still like bucket getting D Wade. Then he had bucket getting Kyrie. Like, he, of course, spaced the floor with shooters around him, but he needs another guy. Like, I'm gonna dump it off to you. You go ahead and get it. And if AD can't do that, I think a Brad Beal can do it. Lonzo can't do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Lonzo, but like somebody that's like not that high profile that can like still go out and get you a bucket. Maybe Colin's that guy. I know he is a bucket, but like I would just be concerned if I were the Lakers for the contract.
Colin is only 22. Like, I know that, like, that sounds crazy to say out loud. He's still only 22 years old. Like, this is, and like I said, there's a biasness there, I guess, in a sense. But at the same time, it really isn't. This is somebody that has, like, improved every single year. And if you're trying to build it to where win now and also set yourself up for the future, it would depend on what the Lakers brass thinks about him. Does Jeannie and Rob and I guess Frank, do they think that he has that potential in him? Maybe not. if they're gonna do that, if they're not gonna do something like that, then they do need to just try and win a title next year. And centering Kuzma in a deal, Kuzma, KCP, Schroeder on a sign and trade, and Harold should be able to get you Lonzo and Buddy Hield on that team. And to me, that looks a hell of a lot better. Because they were fucking playing Harold anyways. And so when it mattered, they weren't. And so that 4 group to get those 2 guys, I would do that then. If we're trying to build a Lakers team that can win a championship next season.
Beautiful way to close out the Lakers, man. So we got some other distressed assets out here. We've got Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons has, I believe, 4 years left on his deal. He had a terrible playoff showing. He's a clutch athlete, which apparently is a bad thing in the sports media. He also plays for Philly. And I want to put all of this stuff out there because I think it's very important to frame it this way because, Ben Simmons wants to leave. Philly brass wants him gone. But Daryl Morey is his GM. So I don't think Daryl Morey gets trampled by Rich Paul in Clutch Sports like most agents, like most front offices have. Where do y'all think Ben Simmons ends up going? And what does that trade package look like? I think the best trade package right now would be like Ben for CJ McCollum and name that draft pick. Because I just don't see Portland just coming off of Dame so quickly. But I got to go piss, so I'll be back.
I mean, personally, I think
Dame
he's
is
going to end up in Minnesota.
I was just going to say, well, Dame's going to come off of Portland if they do that. I mean, that's not going to fucking make him happy. He's going to be like, oh, great. You gave me somebody that can't shoot. So now I really have to do even more. That would be an awful trade for Portland. It'd be a great trade for Philly, in my opinion. But then again, too, then who's running? Is CJ McCollum running point guard? No, probably not. I mean,
I think Minnesota's the only dominant team to trade for him.
But what would they give up? Like, if you're
Minnesota?
Philly and you can actually think you can fleece Minnesota, what do you want back?
I guess.
Do you want Anthony Edwards? Not really. Oh, I think he dropped out. Like his phone died or something.
But right, that's the real question too. What do you get in return from a team like Minnesota? And I think that like a team like Minnesota, obviously D'Lo is like the centerpiece of that trade. But then you're looking at it, and if you're Minnesota, you're like, okay, well, how does Ben Simmons even look with Cat? Beasley's been, he was definitely before all this stuff that happened this season. He had been doing great. You know what I mean? He was coming into his own as a player. He's not an all-star, but certainly a trade chip for anyone. And so if it's a team like Minnesota, even though if I'm not mistaken, what I read and heard, that's like kind of off the table. Like they don't even want to trade D'Lo for him. They would prefer to stick to the course of what it is that they're doing because they know you get rid of him. There's enough ball to go around for Beasley, Ant-Man, and Cat, I guess. But like Minnesota's just one of those teams too that's just in like doormat. Like
I'd rather have Ben than D'Lo. Also, I wouldn't trade for D'Lo.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that that's a deal that would go down. Like I wouldn't do it. They're kind of just stuck in this place with him, and I think I even read a report today that said that he was like ghosting them or something, which we don't know how true that is. But just imagine being like one of the 2 best players on a team and like just not answering the phone from the ownership or management or whatever.
Is there a move that makes sense for Ben Simmons? Like, I heard the Warriors move, but I'm like, so you're going to move Draymond, right?
Only move that makes sense is when they have the opportunity to maybe get James Harden. Like, nothing else makes sense now.
Yeah, and they should have did it. Like, that was dumb. Them not doing that was like the dumbest shit ever. Like,
I think it was out of their control.
Some people said that Fertitta came in and said, no, we're not making that deal. And then I want to say I read somewhere that either Maxey or Thibault was the like piece that they didn't want to part from for James Harden, which is nuts. Also, people said stuff like the Heat can't give up Tyler Hero for James Harden. You know, I mean, Jesus Christ. This
He
shit
has
that
a
people
song
say.
named after him. You can't really trade that.
Speaking of Tyler Hero, his teammate Duncan Robinson's about to get paid. Who's going to give Duncan 4 for 80?
Let's say nobody's gonna give him 2 for 80.
Right.
Somebody's
4 for
gonna give him-
80.
Somebody's giving him 4 for 80 though.
I think a lot of teams would give him that. Like, I don't even think it'd be like this franchise is dumb enough. I think a lot of teams, if they have the cap space and the pieces already, like plugging another shooter, I think would make that deal real quick.
You want to know what team makes a lot of sense? And it made me think maybe that's kind of why they didn't bring him back. And I don't know what their cap situation is like. I know that Paul Millsap's contract isn't what it used to be. But why wouldn't Denver be a perfect fit? Add him, you're going to get Murray back.
Will Barton just opted out, so that freed up $14 million.
That would be be a good piece there.
Yeah, like he'd be perfect there. I mean, you need any NBA team needs as much shooting as possible. And that was like the reason why the Hawks were so successful in the playoffs. They had so many guys that could actually shoot the ball that I think it shocked the shit out of people that they really did. They have so many guys that could average between 11 and 16 points a game, like at all positions almost, except, big man.
But even now Clint was still good to like get you a trash man's 12 and 12, 12 and 15.
Yeah,
he led the league in offensive rebounds.
Speaking of the Hawks, what do you think we do with John Collins?
Pay the man.
For what? Like he gets his buckets, but they really don't help anything. And it's crazy that to say him scoring 20 points doesn't help, but like it really doesn't.
Series when he banged on Joel Embiid, that flipped the series. He won that series with that dunk. Not really, but you see what I'm saying.
The real question is, do you let him test free agency? Do you let him even get to that point? Do you close the deal before he can test it? Because that would be the thing that the Hawks would have to think. We can't really afford to lose you, especially for nothing. If you do walk, can we get somebody better than you is the thing. Because now that we've done this run, maybe people will take us seriously as a destination because Atlanta's not a bad place to live. You know what I mean? That's like one of the weirdest parts about why the Hawks have never gotten free agents. Like, I get it. I know that joke is everybody's side chick lives here, but like this has never been a place that anyone's wanted to sign. And it's always been weird because everybody hangs out here. There is that culture, that Black Hollywood or whatever you want to call it. Like there is that kind of aura that's here. And then,
what about the stuff that goes through our group text every single day for reasons why you wouldn't want to live in Atlanta?
That shit is like low key recent, and Keisha's about to be out as mayor. Kasim's about to get watched. He's going to get reelected, but like that shit's like been relatively new too. Like, you know what I mean? Like the crime aspect of it. I mean, I know like Young Wei Koo's Jeep got stolen, but like, that's not happening to every they're kissing those people's asses out here. And so being here and being able to, think about it. Dominique Wilkins has a statue, and it's not that Dominique wasn't great because I guess he was, but like at the same time, that is like the high mark of the greatest player in Atlanta Hawks basketball history. I'm not counting Bob Pettit. Pete Maravich, I'm not counting him either. Like he didn't play here that long. Like he was like a Jazz too. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, so like there isn't even a high mark here if somebody gets to the NBA finals, it's just like, bro, you're going to get a day named after you. You're going to Magic City for like, they're giving you money to throw at them. You're not even spending your own money. Like you're getting your ass kissed so much here. If you're like a true baller, like, you know what I mean? Like you really would.
I think we keep Collins. I think we match the offer because you don't want to lose the asset for nothing. Even if you flip him mid-season or next off-season, right? You just match the offer sheet and you keep that asset because I don't think we need him next year. We have a healthy DeAndre Hunter. Cam Reddish showed his ass in Game 6 versus Milwaukee, and as somebody who was at that game, he was the only Hawk who felt like the Hawks had a chance of winning. Pi, you remember how at Philly Game 6, how the whole whole arena was into the game. We thought we were going to win the game. Everybody's going crazy. Game 6 of the following series did not feel that way. Like there was so little energy in the arena the entire game. And but Cam Reddish, he was there to win. Like he really thought we were going to win. I mean, down 11, he's hitting threes and talking cash money. So
and what he did was, not to cut you off, but like what he did was create himself as an asset, because who's to say the Hawks don't want to.
Look at that. The Hawks are just tapping into the stream because he's trying to say
he kind of set himself up good. That little bit of a comeback he had, because everybody knows he's got potential, still a rookie deal. He kind of set himself up. But you want to know the.
We're losing you.
I'll hop in and say John Collins. I think he showed that he has a little dog in him throughout this playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And like I liked it because like I didn't I'm a Hawk supporter, but like I didn't really watch them throughout the year, just based off them not having a lot of national games. And like watching throughout playoffs, like it's like you got a little dog in him, man. I like that.
You got a lot of dog in him, but is it gonna help you win games?
I mean, Westbrook has.
I think we saw it.
I think he's a good asset, but we'll see. Is there any other thing major you want to talk about? Did we really talk about Dame? Did we really talk about Brad Bill? I struggle with those two because I don't know what makes sense or what's going to happen.
I think Dame's out of there. Brad is probably out of there. That I don't know. Like, I hope it's not the Knicks.
I actually would really like to see him in Philly, but I just don't know how that would happen.
Kawhi opts in, right?
Yeah,
I think so. Like, where else would he go?
I think he opts out, just even if it's just to get a new deal with them. Because even with the injury, like somebody will pay him. You know what I mean? Like he's that good. He is that good to where he'll make more money, even if he knows that he's going to stay with the Clippers. Like he's opting out just because he's going to get paid more and more security.
What about CP3? Does he stay in Phoenix?
Yes.
I want to say yeah on that, but like, you know, it's so wild that somebody like him at 36, 37 can turn down $44 million guaranteed and like feel really good about it just because he knows, because of how well he just played, that somebody will give him $120 million over 3 years. Or maybe not 120, but like 110, something like that. Somebody will still lock him up to guarantee himself an additional $60 to $70 million after next year.
Yeah, he can make more money, but he can't make more money and go to a better situation. So his best move if he wants to win a ring is either stay with Phoenix and probably not get a ring, but make a ton of money, or take a pay cut and go to like LA. But I think with that much money on the table, and if for not to be a sure thing, he'd probably stay with Phoenix.
Anything else? Also, does Kyle Lowry go to the Pelicans and revive that franchise?
That's a hell no.
DeMar DeRozan.
Who cares where Kyle Lowry goes?
I mean, Kyle
If it's
Lowry
not to the Lakers, it won't matter.
He's one of the most sought after free agents out here. We got Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan.
I could see DeMar going to LA. Yeah, like Pierce said, I could see that happening.
He said in Shannon's on Club Shay Shay that he liked that. He said he could make it work with AD and LeBron.
I mean, I've always liked DeMar DeRozan for no apparent reason that I can't even articulate right now. So I wouldn't be mad if he went to LA.
Kind of
I
reminds
think
you of
he
Kobe.
would be like, what's up?
Kind of remind you of Kobe.
If you want to see,
he actually does.
Yeah, no, he's closer to Kobe than Devin Booker is because he was athletic and explosive as a young player and has a really good mid-range game.
Yeah, his whole game, if you watch him, is Froby Kobe. It's like that early 2000s. He doesn't really shoot a lot of threes. His mid-range is crazy, and his athleticism is off the charts. Well, he's older now, but like that's what his game was like. His game was not the latter half Kobe where I'm a bust from anywhere on the court. and there's nothing you can do about it. The Froby Kobe, that is DeMar DeRozan's game if you watch it. Whereas Booker is just a bucket. And they're like, we haven't really seen anyone get buckets like this since, well, Kobe. So let's compare him to Kobe. That's not who he is.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's get to some Team USA stuff. Are we going to go?
Send them home.
Like, what do you think the problem is here? Like, is it people not wanting to play? Is it the roster? I mean, somebody sent me a post saying that it's Pop's fault, which I just think is absolutely insane. Like, we're just not going to blame the whole thing on Pop. Is it the USA not playing with the same guys internationally to build that continuity like a lot of the other countries do, because they don't have as many options to insert in as we do? So we just be like, fuck it, we can just throw whoever in here. Like, what do y'all think the problem is with Team USA? I'll start with you, Boink, since you're wearing your Team USA gear.
Yeah, I got a rep for the 96 Olympics in Atlanta. But honestly, I think these guys are tired. Like, it's been a long, like, if you count the 2020 season that was broken up into two parts, like, just the pandemic and everything, like, it's been a long, like, 18, 20 months, however long it's been. And I think these guys are, like, physically tired and not mentally all the way in, you know, the Olympic mode. Like, and I think it's just showing, like, they're kind of going through the motions. Like, hopefully they can pick it up. But, like, if they don't, I honestly wouldn't be surprised. Like, I don't even think this is, like, I mean, I guess it's, like, comparable to 2004 because that's the last time, you know, the U.S. men's team didn't do so hot. But, like, it just seems like they're going through the motions. And it's like, so, yeah, I guess, I mean, the roster isn't built well either. But, you know, we've proven that we just can't slap together, you know, 15 guys and call it good anymore. Like, that's not going to cut it. But I honestly don't think that they are that invested in the Olympics.
These aren't the best players that the United States has to offer. Let's start there. Then there is the continuity of Coach K has been the coach, the last 3 or 4 teams. And Pop's a great coach. You know, nobody's going to dispute that. You could argue, I mean, even though Phil's got the ring, you could really argue the best. He's really the best coach. But they don't have the best players. This shit is slapped together. I mean, you know, the Olympics itself has been slapped together. And so you add all that up and mix it in a blender, and then you throw in the hunger of another nation that's like, you know, this is kind of our time. Like, if we're going to do it, this is probably when we need to catch the United States slipping. And then, you know, international talent has just gotten better in general. I think I said it in our group earlier this week. When you look at the NBA, it's split in twos. It's niggas and then it's international players. There's really no in between with that. And so, you know, international talent has gotten better. That's why Luka can take Slovenia, a nation that literally, I don't know if this is their first Olympics, but it's been a long time since they've even been in it. And he comes out against Argentina, who isn't a pushover in international competition, and does what he did. What did he have? He had 45. What did he have?
48.
Like 11.
48, like 13.
Yeah. I mean, who the fuck puts up a 50 ball in international play? Nobody. And they did it and beat them, like, convincingly. And so, you know, if there's a time to do it, it's now. And I'll be right back.
Does Luka become the best player in the league if he takes Slovenia to the gold?
No. Like, it's still, international play is so different. And I think, like, everyone is getting worried. I think the USA is still going to do fine. Like, if you think about it, France is probably the second best team. We lost to the Aussies and we lost to Nigeria, and those were exhibitions. And we're like, crazy that we lost. But Nigeria, I would say, like, no excuse for that one. The Aussies are a good team. And the French team, we just played in the gold medal game in Rio in 2016. So, like, that is probably the second best team in the field. And we lost to by a handful of points. And it was really down to the wire. We were down 3 and they, like, missed a 3 to tie it. They had, like, 2 good looks at it, missed that 3 to tie it. So everyone's getting worried. And I'm like, we played a really good team in Olympic play. We lost by a very slim margin. These teams play together all the time. Like, we threw this team together a few weeks. They were like, oh, we got a few weeks out. We'll just have you guys all out in Vegas, throw some shots up, do that little one-on-one stuff. We'll make some overtime ball is life videos, and then we're good to go. But that's really like they threw this team together. But the team is good. It's not like the teams that we had in the qualifying matches that were like Miles Turner was our starting five. Like, it's still a good team. If it were an NBA team, it'd be the best team in the NBA. And this is a team with the most NBA players, the most NBA talent, figuring each other out against dudes that play international style basketball. It is like, there are some small nuances, but there are differences. And then there are also, these teams play together year in and year out. And these teams are so used to playing against each other. And then, like Joel said, they're probably tired because they're playing a long season and against the best competition in the world in the NBA all the time. So I think give them like a week and a half to figure it out. And I think when it comes, by the time gold medal game happens, it's going to be us against somebody.
Yeah. On the plus side, if they don't win the gold, then, like, you know, in I guess 3 years in Paris, then, like, you know, all the heavy guns are going to come out because, you know, we got to
another redeem team.
Yeah.
I think Luka does take them to a medal game, though. I think they'll be in like the bronze match.
I'd hate to see Luka in the gold game against us, though. I mean, I don't know how the pools are set up or where we'd fall in the bracket, but I just hate to see that. Like, I would just the American sports media would stop and talk about this entirely too long when they should be talking about football because football's gearing up. But I think the Olympics thing is something to look at, but I don't think it's that damn serious. We still have the best players in the world, but I do think it does show some gaps in the American style of basketball that is a bit more individual based, and less of a team style of game. And now that
and foul dependent.
Huh?
And foul dependent.
Yes, and very foul dependent. That's another thing, how a lot of players rely on a whistle to get into their bag. That's a part of their game. When you're not getting that whistle because the game's called differently, the game's played differently.
They don't give a fuck who you are.
Yeah, and the officials don't care who you are. Like, you're not just gonna go curse them out, and they actually care. So, lastly, before we close out, we're all college sports, college football fans. I'm not a college basketball fan. I prefer to watch other things with my life. But anyways, we're college football fans, and some big stuff came out this past week. Oklahoma, OU, and the University of Texas are joining the SEC. One of these teams belongs, and the other just has a big brand. What are your thoughts on those two teams joining the SEC? And then moving forward, what is the landscape of college football going to look like as we see like these super conferences being built? Because like there's rumors that USC is the Big Ten's interested in USC. Obviously, the Big Ten's been interested in Notre Dame, but Notre Dame is like, we can get our own money. So like, how does this hit? Let's go to the Pac-12 guy first. Like, because now the Big 12 and the Pac-12 could possibly become FCS type divisions, or not FCS, but not non-Power 5 conferences. You know, how does that like make you feel with California being so talented?
Well, first of all, Notre Dame did want to join the Big Ten a long time ago. Michigan was petty and was like, if they join, we're leaving. And they really fumbled a bag because Notre Dame would have brought in a ton of money. But I wouldn't be surprised if, like, geographically it doesn't make sense, but they're trying to take like the top 6, so those historic programs, the UCLA, USC, Oregon, except Washington and Cal, into the Big Ten. The Big Ten already has like 15 teams, so they're going to have to knock out their lower teams, and it's going to become one super conference. The ACC and SEC are going to have to do something similar. The Big 12 really, once they lose OU and Texas, who I think with Sark there could have a resurgence. Like, you've seen what happened with all the coaches under Saban. Once they leave, they do well. Like Lane Kiffin was awful at USC. I think that's the recipe. You got to go to USC, do terrible, and then you got to go under Saban, and then you'll do well. But I think Sark can probably open up that offense like the coach before didn't. So I think it'd be interesting to see. But once you start losing your big name brands from your conference, like your conference is done. If the Pac-12, who really is surviving by SC and Oregon, loses those two, and you tell me they're going to lose another 4 with it, like they're going to be done. And then if the ACC loses, just Clemson. That's the only really person they've got. They're done. And it's just going to make like, why are we doing this? And it's going to turn into just like a few big super conferences, and college football will probably like tradition will be gone, but every Saturday will be the best Saturday ever. You'll still have your Alabama will still play in the Iron Bowl every year, but now you'll have an Alabama versus Ohio State, and you can have that like week 4 because that's just the way the super conferences match up now. And like, who wouldn't want to see that? And now we're going to have a much better playoff system. So it's going to suck for tradition, but like Michigan, Ohio State will still play every year. Notre Dame, USC will still play every year. The crazy rivalries that fans go nuts for, you guys versus Georgia versus Florida, like the cocktail parties still happen. And those big games are going to happen every year. And now I don't have to watch Alabama play the Citadel or South Carolina upstate. So I'm saying like college football will be the best it's ever been.
Now, no shots at the Citadel. One of my man's on the staff there.
Yeah, the Citadel is trash.
You know, it's funny. The Citadel was beating Alabama 1 year at halftime, but I'm dead serious. They really were. They really were. And of course,
Southern
they still
put up
lost by
300 rushing yards on them.
Yeah, and that's the glory of college football, and that's why I don't want it to happen. I just think that at this point, if you had Oklahoma and Texas, just throw Clemson and Ohio State in there, call them the power conference, and then let everybody else be Division 1AA. I mean, and then from there, the winner of the Division 1AA can join the playoff of the power conference, aka the SEC. I mean, I don't like the idea of it, even with an expanded playoff. Everybody's like, well, it's more parity. Alabama can lose more in the regular season. Okay, Alabama lost 2 games and still won the national championship without winning the SEC West or the SEC. And so I don't like the idea of that, being the case. If they wanted to create more parity in college football, they would make it to where, in a weird way, it's like a cap restriction. There's only X amount. They already give them a cap restriction on scholarships, and I understand that. They can only offer X amount of those. But if you start to X out the amount of 5 stars that you can offer that stuff to, or 4, and there's no way to really cap that because so many guys can go from 3-star to 5-star over a summer, right? And you can offer them in 10th grade, but they were a 3-star, but then they became a 5-star.
Or you cut scholarships for the best teams. I think now's the prime time. I think now's the prime time for the NCAA to like exist for once in college football and set up scheduling almost like NFL type scheduling where where the good teams have to play the good teams. And I mean, it sucks if you're a struggling program that you can't go get your face beat out by Alabama for $500,000 this year. But hey, look, we want better football. I don't want to watch these bad games, which is why I like what's going to happen with the SEC. Hopefully the Big 12, the Pac-12, and the Mountain West can figure out something to revitalize West Coast football, and USC stays out there, because what I think it could do is it could open up – I think this opens up just craziness in recruiting, right? Because now parents are going to get to watch their kids play on TV even though they're further away. And it's just expanding the recruiting footprint of some of these programs. But I don't know. It's weird. It's super weird, but I like it. I think that there should just be more good college football.
It's
the
great.
Only thing
it's
I don't like is, selfishly, as Adam and Pierce, I'm a Georgia fan. So I don't want Alabama and well, I mean, we play Auburn every year anyway, but Alabama and LSU to come to the East and have to play them every single year. Yeah,
keep Saban in the West so him and Lincoln Riley can go at it. Speaking of which, somebody, I won't say any names, got Oklahoma OU winning it all this year? What kind of nonsense is that?
I wouldn't bet it.
That guy, he's looking at it from a betting standpoint, and of course he's looking at it conference, which he's absolutely right. I mean, OU probably should go undefeated. I mean, Texas and Iowa State would be the two teams that I would say are going to be in competition with them this season. And the thought is that, this is, of course, a huge upset. The thought is that Sark's not going to be able to get it together to where, because if they beat OU, shit, then at that point we talk about, going 11-1 or whatever. Maybe they slip up once. Oklahoma is going to be in the playoff because they typically are, and Spencer Rattler is going to be at the top of the Heisman list. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But for that individual to think that as a team they're more complete than Alabama, Georgia, or even Clemson, and there's still some unknown with Clemson too, but either of those teams, it's ridiculous and it's asinine. He's just got his opinion on college football because of this betting season. We're really excited about college football betting this year.
I think Clemson and Ohio State are the safest bet every year because of scheduling. Ohio State is the best team in the Big Ten. Everybody else in the Big Ten plays, the 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And then Ohio State spreads everybody out. And then Clemson, literally, if the only team that can maybe take them down is North Carolina, and North Carolina really just gives them a slight scare. Miami's not there in the ACC. They're not the U anymore. So Clemson and Ohio State have the easiest route to the playoff every year, whereas Alabama has to play an LSU. And LSU, by and large, Alabama typically has their number, but it could be a crazy Joe Burrow year, which people will keep forgetting. Alabama lost 2 games that year. They went down to the wire with that LSU team, and then they lost to Auburn with Mac Jones, who was a backup, and he still took Auburn to the wire. So I'm saying Alabama just has a tough schedule.
That was what made last year even so great. Notre Dame being in the ACC, as overrated as they are, in my opinion, every year, they were still a really good team. And, I mean, they were warranted that 4th spot, I thought. But back to your Ohio State point, too. Yes, Clemson and Ohio State, they definitely do have the easiest paths, and that's why they're such easy bets. But, this year, specifically in the Big Ten, just because I don't know anything about who's quarterback in Ohio State, we know that they typically will always have a good run game. And Ryan Day's shown that he can, the crown isn't too heavy for him to take over Urban Meyer's shoes. But, let me tell you a team to watch out for, seriously, in the Big Ten. And because they were for real last year until the quarterback got hurt. And he was the real deal the year before that.
Indiana
Penix is so good. Ryan Penix is – I like him.
They are.
If the Falcons want to draft a guy that might not go in the first round, that's who I'm getting in round 2 or round 3 to bring in to be Matt Professor. I like him.
I like that. No love for Michigan, I see. No love for the khaki pants. Look, guys, this has been great. It's an hour 42. I'm hungry. I've enjoyed this. Really enjoyed talking hoops with you guys today, Boink and EB. We've done it, here and there throughout the season. Hey, Parlay Pete, should we tell the people what we got coming for football season?
Coming soon. We will be putting on a gambling /NFL pregame podcast for this upcoming 2021-22 season. I'm really excited about it just because I think that we need to educate people on gambling, especially the closer that it's starting. No, seriously, the closer and closer that it's starting to get to where this stuff is going to get legalized. You know what I mean? It is. It really is coming soon because there's just so much money in it for everybody. Whether you're the loser giving the casino /bookie all the money or you're hitting them over the head. One way or another, everybody can make money. And I'm excited to announce that we will be doing that. Is it going to be – it's going to be every Thursday. Is that kind of what we've agreed on?
Yeah, Thursdays.
Every Thursday we're going to do a pick six of games. And I don't know if it's going to be strictly NFL, but It might be NFL, mix of
Could be
college,
NFL. We'll probably sprinkle some college in. We're gonna do a Falcons.
and maybe some basketball too, because the NBA will be back by October.
Oh,
So
Jesus Christ.
yeah.
I promise
it's
if I place any of your parlays and they don't hit, I'll show up at your house. I know where you live.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's a good thing that we've got Gates, and so. But you'll get winners. I mean, you guys have seen enough of my winners. People have to understand that you're going to lose more bets than you win, but you can always win more money than you lose.
I think it's a
Makes
good way
sense,
to go out,
honestly.
guys.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Hey, thanks
Yeah.
for your time, man. We're out.
Thanks for having
Absolutely.
me.
Great seeing you guys, and I'm glad that we got to do another round of the big motherfucking baby.